Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Open Mic Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Marc. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. This podcast is here for everybody on the open mic comedy circuit, whether you're a comedian, an MC, a promoter, or a tutor. Hey, even comedy fans enjoy watching the stars of the future. If you're thinking, I could do that, then this podcast will guide you on what to expect on this crazy circuit from those right in the middle of it. Today's guest, he wasn't very successful in creating slogans for the Coast Guard. His delivery is better than Royal Mail. It's the man behind Funny Folk. So please welcome to the stage, the unmistakable Adam Dorr.
Hello.
Hello, how are you, sir?
I am okay, Mark. How are you doing on this fine Thursday morning?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Doing well. So what's going on then? What's new?
What's new? God. So I have what that is a very good question. Do you know what? I've got like a one-off charity night happening at the like beginning of May, and that's more or less the only thing that's immediately coming to mind. So I'm very excited about that. That is more or less the only new thing. There is nothing exciting happening at the moment. At the time I'm recording this.
Who is Adam Dorr then?
Who is Adam Dorr? Who is Adam? Oh, a question I ask myself every day. So I am Adam. I'm 23 years old, and I've been doing stand-up for 3 years. At the end of April will be my anniversary of my first ever gig. So I've done like comedy at my university on the circuit, and fundamentally I'm just a silly guy who has no idea why he's picked this up as a hobby, but I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
Good. What actually made you want to get involved in stand-up then? What is there like a performing background you've got as well?
So I was very into theatre from a young age. I was involved in like a theatre group for between like the ages of 14 to 18. I always liked entertainment. I always liked acting and theatre in general. I also used to write sketches for the group and stuff. I wrote like scripts. Stand-up in particular didn't really grab my interest until I was about 18 years old. I was very into more scripted like sketch comedy or film comedy, so like the Cornetto trilogy or Monty Python and stuff like that. So I sort of noticed I had a tendency to prefer and was better at like comedy acting anyway. And around the age of 8, shortly after I turned 18, I started like binge watching Mock the Week, and I was like, this is fun. I like this. I need to watch more stand-up, and I said after I leave school, I will do like an open mic set at some point just to see if I can do it. And then COVID happened, so that put that on hold for a little bit. And then I gave it a go after watching a friend of mine who was, I was 20 years old, he was 19. I watched him do stand-up and absolutely like kill on his first ever attempt. And I went, I have no excuse for not at least giving this a go anymore. I need to get that dream back out there. So, yeah.
Okay. So the journey didn't start with like a traditional course or anything else like that. That seems to happen a lot in the modern day. It was just, I'm going up there and going to give it a go.
More or less. So I actually did comedy at uni shortly after giving it a go. So I did drama and film as part of my degree. And in my second year, I studied like alternative cabaret, so like 1980s style stand-up. And, you know, we had to put on like a show through and like our research was essentially just watching 80s comedians, so like Alexei Sale, Rick Mayall and in their prime and stuff like that. So yeah, so I've done it at uni, but never like I've never signed up for a course. I've never signed up with the intention of I'm going to learn how to do stand up. It was just part of the degree. So no course, but also yes course.
Yeah, but not as we kind of would see it more these days kind of thing.
Not a conventional course, no.
Yeah. So did that course involve a lot of writing then, and how to structure jokes and stuff like that?
Not really. It was always kind of more about persona. So one of my university lecturers, you might have heard of him, he's Oliver Double. He's like the world's leading academic in stand-up, and you can find like an article of when he started teaching at the University of Kent in 1999, where he basically says, I can't teach people how to be funny. People either are or they aren't, in my opinion. And it was always more about finding what's funny about you. So early on, for example, he noticed he went to me and was like, you don't make eye contact. I know that's because you're autistic. Keep doing that. I like that. That's unique. That's your selling point. Don't make eye contact with audiences. Most comedians will, but that makes you stand out as an individual. So it's about finding our quirks. It was more helping with delivery. They never really gave us strict guidelines on what we could and couldn't talk about, how to structure it. There were like little obvious things like, oh yeah, there's the rule of three, so one thing and then final third punchline, blah blah blah. But for the most part, it was very very much oriented on selling the jokes rather than telling the jokes, I guess.
Okay. So how did you actually go about curating a set then? Can you remember like the first things you kind of started to note down about what you wanted to say on stage?
So for the very first set I actually did, I did it for like a charity night, so and the entire crowd more or less were also autistic people. I did mention that already. I'm very autistic. Hi, anyone who happens to also be autistic. So I had an audience that I knew were sort of sympathetic to how I was, because that was one of the barriers to me wanting to do it. Was, what if people don't get it? What if people don't understand? So I just wrote a set explaining it. It wasn't very good, in my opinion. So I just sort of did roughly 3 minutes of, I'm autistic, this is how my brain works, I see a therapist. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So it was essentially just me. My first 6 sets were me being angry about something to do with being autistic. Yeah. So that was sort of it. I wanted to I knew quite early on that was something I had to talk, and I still do talk about it to this day on stage, obviously. But that was it. The first thing was mention that you're autistic and be angry about it.
But so can you remember sort of like? Well, I'm sure you can. I always like to ask this little fun question of your best moments on stage and your worst moments on stage.
Mm-hmm. I think one of my favourite moments ever was my first ever like theatre gig. So for background context, I was incredibly nervous this day. It was also my first time ever doing 2 gigs on the same day, which I almost never do. I did like an afternoon gig, and then I rushed to like a theatre in Canterbury, and it was my very first stand-up theatre gig. I was terrified backstage, and one of the other acts, it was her first time doing stand-up, and she had like an anxiety dog with her, and her dog kept on going up to me, and I was like, what's going on? She went, oh, you are way more terrified than me, and the dog is trying to tell you that you need the dog to calm yourself down. And I was like, shit, I what the fuck? I was having like such imposter syndrome over doing it. I was like, I've only performed in front of, uni people and like pubs in Canterbury at this point. What the fuck am I doing? And it's also like a not like quite a family friendly gig, but it was oriented towards people even younger than me at the time. I was 21 at the time, so I was very like, oh, I need to not swear and not swear too much. So I was wearing sunglasses to hide my nerves as well, because that was another fun little thing I was doing. And then I got introduced by the wonderful Danny Scott. I'm sure everyone listening knows who he is. And I just panic. I run on stage and essentially just yell at the audience for 2 minutes. And I think I at one point I go, I'm fine. I'm completely fine. Look how fine I am. I don't even need these. And I break my sunglasses on stage. Very expensive sunglasses as well. And that's like, it wasn't like a specific set or a joke. It was just the fact that I, like, the adrenaline of that moment, I've always wanted to like capture ever since then. And it's helped. I've never been that nervous before or since. But I loved the adrenaline of that gig. I loved the feeling of, shit, this is my first time doing something big. And the spontaneity that came, because you have to enjoy doing stand-up to keep doing it. I think you have to fundamentally, if you're feeling things about it, whether they're horrible, heart palpitating anxiety or just the thrill of it, that's a good sign. So that's my favorite moment on stage.
I find it quite hard being neutral going on stage. I have to be. It's usually anxious, but then once I get on stage and after possibly around about 15 to 20 seconds and I said hello and I've got a little chuckle or something, I'm like, okay, we're settled in, we're okay. But there's times where I'll go into a gig and if I go to the gig and go, I don't really care about it, I go in with that attitude of very placid, and it's just like, it's not going to work.
And I think that's so true. If you're feeling just about the gig, it can go fine, but you're not learning anything from it, and you're just kind of asking yourself, well, what's the point of being here today? I could have just stayed at home and watched a film. You need to feel raw. You don't need to feel on edge. But I agree with you.
Yeah. What about worst moments on stage then?
Oh God. So at uni, I did a character for like 2 gigs. I came up with this guy called Badam, and essentially Badam was just me but with devil horns on. We were doing like some sort of wacky character ideas in the workshop, and I actually stuck with it. I was like, I'm going to do this. And to this day, the second time I ever did the character, I think was the worst gig I have ever done. And annoyingly, it's on YouTube, on my like friend's YouTube channel, because they filmed the entire night.
Right.
And mortified that is up there and that is public knowledge. So Badam was me with devil horns, and I made the set was the 7 worst people who are going to hell, not for being evil but for being very annoying. And it was essentially just like the laziest character. I'd had a falling out with one of my classmates over something incredibly petty, and I wanted to talk about that, and I went, oh yeah, all drama students are going to hell. And I was doing it to a crowd of drama students.
Nice.
So that was very early on, and nothing has been worse than that, because I wasn't even met with like, I don't know what I was trying to do. Well, I wasn't trying to make people laugh, and that was a fact. I just wanted to vent and be told I was clever or correct. And I have grown out of that immaturity, I think. But I was very angry that day, and I was like, yep, you're all going to hell, and I did it without reading the room.
There was one thing I want to pick up on, is that I know there's always a certain element of what's scripted and what's not with comedians.
Yeah,
but I'm always intrigued with yourself in what is and what isn't. Like there was a clip I saw of you where you messed up the delivery, and then you came back with something along the lines of, maybe I should work for Royal Mail or something.
Oh yeah,
like
that one.
Was that off the cuff or was that pre-planned? Because that was so quick. I'm like, I can't make up my mind, but it was so good.
I genuinely fucked the joke up. That absolutely happened. Is it bad that I don't remember if I'd thought of that line just in case or not? I think I might have had that in my mind. In that moment, it was spur of the moment, but I can't remember if that's parallel thinking, because I genuinely cannot remember if I'd ever written that down as like here's a line in case you fuck up, or if I was just thinking about Royal Mail on that particular day. I don't remember. I have a tendency to flub lines a lot. My biggest weakness as a comedian, I think, is that I rush the hell out of my delivery, and I have tried everything not to. I've tried slowing myself down, and it's still, I think, my biggest barrier to improvement is the fact that I just talk fast. So that happens quite a lot. I regularly flub lines. But yeah, the sort of like lesson, if there is one, is it happens to everyone. It happens to me probably more frequently than your average circuit act, because most people can actually control their speech patterns. I cannot. I'm terrible. So it's good to. I've done improv outside of stand up, and that has really helped me. I sometimes even say I prefer doing improv to stand up. Improv has a lot of room for error. Improv is forgiving. Improv is inherently, if stuff goes wrong in improv, it's okay. There's the yes and rule, whereas in stand up, audiences are a lot more picky on the way you fuck up. So it's best. It's going to happen. So just say something funnier, make fun of yourself, and move on. That's. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, it kind of does, because it's an interesting thing that even though where I am, I've never really thought about. I've never actually put it into practice, I guess, about having standard replies if something goes wrong. I've done bits. I did one last night where I was in front of the crowd and I'm starting the set and I'm going through it, I'm getting some laughs. And then I just went at one point, and this is the point that you realise that the comedian's forgotten his next line and is just waffling to bide some time, and everyone laughs.
Yeah.
And then you go, I've got it. Here we go.
Yeah, people sort of like gentle meta humor like that. If it's going to go wrong, embrace it, and then they're a lot more forgiving of you, because they then go from thinking, oh, that guy's silly, to, he's a comic genius. He thought of that all by himself on the spur of the moment. We don't care that this previous thing went wrong. There's one that I'm going to come back to that I'll probably say many, many times over whatever period I keep doing this, but I was doing a set where I have somebody off stage as a operator on a phone call, and I have a conversation with them. And I started the conversation as I would normally. And at one point I went, hold on a second, I'm just going to have to put her on hold for a second. So I need to explain the audience about this key part of the story that I haven't told them that makes this conversation make no sense. And everyone's like in raptures of like laughter again. Going, oh, he's fucked it up again. But it's funny and he's done it. And then it brings everything in. But the weird thing was that at the end, one of the comedians came up to me at the end and said, that bit you fucked up, leave it in. It was really funny. And it's like, I can't. Yeah.
The spontaneity is gone.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? It feels scripted.
Do you know? And one of the worst things is when something happens on the spur of a moment in a night and you forget to film your set that day, because then you can't go, I had a great little crowd work moment. You're just going to have to believe me. There's no TikTok clip today. You just have to believe me. I did this banging bit of improv and it was wonderful.
Yeah, it's an interesting art form, this, isn't it? It's I don't think anybody ever completes it, but just watching other people do it, and there's always that little bit of envy when you watch somebody do something. You go, how can they just pull that out?
Why the fuck am I not thinking of this?
Yes.
I think, like, shortly after, like, my first ever gig, I remember, like, reading someone's... I was having a really difficult time at the moment, for context. I was reading, like, a joke someone wrote on Reddit, and I thought, that is so funny. I'm so sad that I have not come up with that joke. What is wrong with me? Why am I not just thinking, that's a good joke? Why are we so miserable about this?
So you're saying you've been in this game then for about 3 years on the circuit and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your kind of overall impressions and thoughts on like the open mic circuit in general, goods and bads?
Goods and bads. So I've sort of been on maybe like 3 different corners of the circuit. So maybe even 4. So my first few gigs were charity gigs where not everyone was even a comic. There were like 3 comics and, musical acts, poets and whatnot. So that was pre-circuitry, if it will. So I've done the student comedy scene, I've done the Kent comedy scene, and I've done the London comedy scene. Those are sort of like the 3 I have the most sort of experience with, and they're all quite different. As a sort of like general good, bear in mind I've done other sort of performance stuff all my life. Comedy is probably the most mutually supportive performance environment I've ever been involved on, and that's been true for all 3 scenes I've been a part of. Is there jealousy at times? Yes. Are there petty feuds and whatnot? Yes. But generally speaking, people get along. That people like seeing other people succeed in the circuit, whereas in theatre it's cutthroat, and people if you're not if you don't win a competition at a comedy night, there are always other competitions. If you don't get that acting role, good luck, because you might not get another big audition for 3 years. So comedy is very mutually supportive. If someone else does well, it's not at your expense. So people like seeing other people see them. So I like that aspect of it. I like how quick it is to get to know people as well. I do the London scene. I travel up for it because there is more comedy in London than there is in Kent. And I will get to know people quite quickly for it, even though I'm not seeing people every day, and it's quite a long journey to do it, but it's worth it to get to meet. It sounds too cliche, but like meeting interesting people, making friends over a shared interest, and being like, someone actually gets why I'm into this. So I like the intimacy of the open mic scene in all forms, but especially London. London's quite communal, although I'm increasingly getting face blindness and being like, oh, hey, I'm Adam, and people tell me that they've met me 3 times, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I fully believe you. That definitely didn't happen yesterday, and if the person who I did that to is listening, I apologise. Let me try and think of the negatives.
Well, what would you like to see change? It doesn't have to be terrible. It can just be things that you'd like to see that would shift slightly to make things better.
So for London nights, I think there are too many comedy nights in London concentrated in the same sort of areas, and I think that makes it difficult for you guys to promote your nights without resorting to this has to be a bringer. If you're going to start a comedy night, and I'll talk about this more in a bit maybe, but so I run Funny Folk, as has been mentioned. Funny Folk is one of the only open mics in Folkestone, and that helps because there's not much competition. If you're going to start a night in Camden, bear in mind there are already like 100 other nights in Camden. What's your night's unique selling point? And I think bringers are one thing. Everyone's done a bringer gig at some point, like multiple even. But it's not sustainable for most, because in the long term, in my opinion, I think people should try and branch out. And I think, for example, a way to do this would be, your night is raising money for charity, because not many open mic nights do that, and it's a good way of getting an audience because people like to feel like they're doing something good without actually doing much. So that's something I'd like to see on the open. If you're going to start a night, fucking great. I don't think there's anything wrong with more nights inherently. Just bear in mind the geography of the area, who you're competing with. Also, if you're going to do it, make it a Saturday, because there's not many gigs on a Saturday.
Yeah. Fridays and Saturdays seem to be neglected as such, don't they? I don't know if it's a case of a lot of the venues go, well, we get more custom on a Friday and Saturday, therefore we won't put the comedy night on. The comedy night can just fill in the gaps throughout the week.
But I think that's counterproductive. I think Friday is a great day for comedy. It's the last day of the week. Kent actually tends to bend the other way. We tend to have more on a Friday. I think Friday is the most common day. Annoyingly, I clash with another promoter who I really like, and I can't do his gig, which is such a shame. But yeah, so Friday is a great day for comedy because last day of the working week, people want to get drunk, people want to laugh. More customers, more the merrier. And I think similarly, Saturday is good for that. First day of the weekend, people are going to want to use their free time to entertain themselves. Obviously it's good to have laughter on a Wednesday in the middle of a working week, but think about it when you're starting a night. Think about the time of day that you want it to be on. And for the Kent scene, if anyone in the Kent scene happens to be listening, please start more nights. There isn't enough opportunity to practice in Kent. That's why I do the London scene as much as I do, is because it's very easy to get stage time in London, and I like London gigs, but I'd also I'd like to be able to travel more locally, and I think the Kent scene, the promoters should spread themselves out, and I think that applies anywhere. If people can like team up and start making like a weekly night or a bi-weekly night, that would be great. To sum it up, what could be changed is how you make your nights.
I think that's good. Well, I've never actually explored it really, so this is a hypothetical. But I think Saturday afternoon gigs, starting at 3, 3:30, 4 o'clock, could work quite well.
Yeah,
because that's the one time in theory that doesn't clash with football as well.
That's true. Yeah,
and if you put a night on that starts at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and you run it for 2 hours, that pub's then thinking, well, I could have that custom staying on beyond 6 o'clock.
There's a couple of nights. I think Big Belly, for example, their show's on a Saturday. I'd like to see maybe like a non-gong alternative, because I don't think there's anything else. And gong shows are, they exist for a reason, but they are scary. So are there any others that are on a Saturday and in the afternoon? Because that's a really good point.
I don't think there is. Not that I'm aware of anyway. I know we've got Star of Kings on a Sunday afternoon, which works quite well.
Of course, yeah.
But on a Saturday, not that I can think of. But hey, if there is one, as they like to say in the YouTube world, put it in the comments and let everybody know.
Please tell us, we're desperate.
So you touched on Funny Folk then.
Mm-hmm.
What's the background on Funny Folk? And
so Funny Folk started end of 2023, and I used to go to their venue like mixed open mics. So they had it was run by 2 musicians, and one of them was a friend of mine. He was like, hey, we also want like more poets and comedians, you should come and do a set here. And I did that a couple of times. It went all right, and one day the venue contacted me shortly after I announced I was doing a local fringe show and went, hey, we'd like you to either put on your like fringe show for one night here, or start like a grassroots open mic here. Which is it? And I went, doing the grassroots open mic would pay me more, so let's go with that. So it's been going for a year and nearly 4 months now. It's one of like 2 or 3, I think one of 2 at the moment open mics in Folkestone altogether. And the moment you start up a comedy night, you are suddenly filled with DMs from people being reminded of what great friends they are with you. And hey, remember that time I laughed at your joke? Please put me on. I don't really like to think of myself as like a promoter, because it's one night. There's not really like a route of progression with Funny Folk. I'm essentially just putting on acts that I like for my own entertainment. But yeah, it's been very beneficial to me having a night, because people are a lot nicer to you when they find out you run a comedy night. Suddenly you have power that you didn't realise you have.
So is the format of the night a kind of standard open mic type fare, different levels and all of that kind of stuff?
So it's kind of like, it's sort of like a hybrid between open mic and a showcase. So I invite most of the acts. I've got like a long waiting list. There's not really a formal application form. People can message me and I will get them on eventually and stuff like that. So I pick 6 acts. They all do roughly 10 minutes. And then I have like a headliner who does 20 minutes. And there are 2 breaks each night. So the venue can make money from drink sales essentially. So, and that works quite nicely. So it's 3 acts break, headliner for 20 minutes. And I am a very quiet MC. I do like a tiny bit of crowd work and then one new joke. And because I want the night to run smoothly, it's in Folkestone. For most acts, that's the middle of nowhere, so I want everyone to get home safe. Open mic with it's an open mic that's essentially not advertised as an open mic, if that makes sense. So
no, it's good. I think I think that's something that the London scene could do with more of, is like the showcase stuff, to see longer sets for people and not necessarily try and put too many 5 minutes on. You want there's a lot of them already. So any new nights, you kind of think, well, let's go for 8 acts doing 10 minutes rather than 16 acts doing 5, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives people like a motivation to want to do your night as well, because the moment they find out that, oh hey, he's offering you 10-minute spots. People, I will do that, and then people are quite happy to, even though it's in Folkestone. So I've had like London acts who have been hesitant, and I'm like, oh, I'm giving you 10 minutes, and they're like, oh, okay, I don't care about how long the journey is. 10 minutes is great. Can I leave early? And I go, yes, you can. So it's like, be generous with what you offer people. Like that, I think, I guess to sort of wrap onto an earlier point about what could improve. London Night should be more lenient with progression. I think London Night should offer progression quicker, because there comes a certain point where you're like, well, I've done a 5 minutes slot at this venue 10 times now. Why aren't you offering me like a 10, even as like a trial? I don't have to do a 10 every time I'm here, but like, I've done this night enough. You've seen that I've got the material. Can I get like 1 10-minute spot, please? And I think being generous as a promoter is a good way to get acts to want to come back and do your night, and it's a good way to attract new acts and see new talent. So have a selling point for the acts, because it's about them as well.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that you kind of touched on earlier was obviously the autism side, and talking about breaking into stand-up comedy as a neurodivergent person. I'm not on that side, so what was the path like, and what did you feel like the barriers to entry were and stuff like that?
Well, there's the sort of common stereotype that autistic people can't be funny as like a social construct. I used to hear it all the time, autistic people don't understand humour. They take everything literally. So that was a barrier to even like getting myself on stage in the first place. Was, what if people just don't think I'm funny because of that? What if people just are innately prejudiced, and that's something I have to push myself past? And then I thought, fuck it, I'm going to give it a go. And then the same year I give it a go, Stuart Lee announces on his in an opinion article that, oh, my GP says I'm autistic. And I go, well, there you fucking go. But also that's very annoying because I thought I'd be the first. So I guess the barrier is trying to be understood. That like I still feel a need to explain autism to an extent to people, which I've written enough material about it that it's fine. I'm happy to do that, but at the same time, I'm like, I've only got X amount of stage time. I want to talk about this thing now, and I haven't got enough time to write my new joke. I try my new joke on Liz Truss or whatever, which is a shame. So I guess the barrier is trying to get outside of the autism box, but also not too far outside of it. And even though, there was like a stigma against autistic people doing comedy or even having a sense of humor, there's a lot of us on the fucking open mic scene. That's great. It's wonderful. But it also means that I've got to write material that's original material. Fucking hell. I've got to try and have my autism material stand out and not be the same as someone else's. So, and that's annoying from a selfish point of view in competitions when someone else has also done 5 minutes on autism and killed. And you've also got a joke about the vaccines causing autism. Fantastic! I'd love to go after you. Yes, great. Audiences are going to love me. So having to acknowledge it and not be stereotypical at the same time.
Because I think when I watch someone like you on stage, I'm amazed at the look of chaos that goes along. Like when you talk about earlier, like talking really quickly, I think sometimes that's part of the endearing part of it, because you may talk quickly, but you're not unclear. So I guess you've got people coming along with you on that journey. Whereas I think some people that speak too quickly, that aren't projecting themselves where aren't clear, it becomes harder to follow, and then that's where the silence happens. But when there was, I can't remember what the joke it was, but when you came on stage with a book and just said something and then you threw it down on the ground, and then it's kind of like, right, we're going, let's go with this. And you've kind of set the scene of, this isn't going to be me telling you a joke, waiting for you to laugh, and then starting another joke.
For a while, I was almost the opposite on stage, though. Like if you was find like a clip of my earliest, YouTube stuff, I was reading from a book, like a lot of acts do on their first attempt, and I was very slow, very monotone, because I didn't want to. I was quite happy to talk about autism, but I wasn't happy to show it at the same time.
Right.
So that's another sort of barrier. So yeah, I do now try with jokes like the slam poetry one. It's very much like we are. My stage, my rules. I am going to play. I'm going to have fun. You guys get on board with it, or you don't. Up to you.
So this is. I mean, I don't know if this is a thing or not, but is there something in your head when something doesn't quite go right? Does it react in a slightly different way to what I would possibly? If I tell a joke and it doesn't go right, I might kind of be a bit more introverted and kind of start thinking, oh God, I'm getting paranoid about this. But does your brain go, we're still going, I'm still going?
I think
it's a weird question, I know, but
no, I it's interesting because I try not to acknowledge when something's going wrong too much. I try not to get that in my head, but it still happens. One thing I have a horrible tendency of doing is, even though not making eye contact helps. Occasionally I will catch a glimpse of one audience member who isn't laughing, and I will keep glancing at them the whole night if a joke doesn't land. And I'm like, why am I trying to win this one person who's not enjoying it over? What am I trying to achieve here? Why am I not caring about how like it's generally going? So I guess I have like a lot of internal, and I think I worry that I'm, if a set's going well for 99% of the room, but not that one person, why am I hyperfixating on that one person who's not enjoying it or is on their phone or whatever? Why am I not just enjoying stage time? So yeah, I'm still trying. It's still a learning process. I'm trying to enjoy every moment of being on stage, even when, something's flopping. So yeah, I think I'm more similar. I think I'm not too different from you in that regard, in that internally I do just want to like shut up when something goes wrong. I do just want the set to end. The other day I bombed in a 10-minute set, and I went back and I'd only done like 7 minutes because like I wrapped it up, and I didn't even realize I wrapped it up early. I just got very bored and I was like, oh yeah, and that bye, I'm Adam. And then I looked back and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. It's only 7 minutes, cool.
Yeah, I think that's when things aren't going well, and I had it recently. It's not going that well. I've got a big joke in mind, a big punchline, and if that hits, I'm on side. If it doesn't hit, I'm in trouble. It didn't really hit, and I'm like, okay, because that's usually like a way to get to like a big finale as such.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, okay, and I don't think I've got anything else now then, so I'll hand you back to the MC.
Yeah. It's the worst thing in the world when like you don't even feel like you want to do your final joke. You're like, nope, you guys don't deserve this.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know, you've lost the room, and you kind of think, why am I pushing on with this? It's better if it ends now for you and for me.
Yeah. Let's everyone forget about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enjoy your alcohol.
Yeah. I'm sure the next act is going to be great. So good luck next act.
Yeah. Oh.
But you touched on like theatre stuff that you've done as well. So what's Adam in a theatre role?
What's Adam in a theatre role? So typically I've done like sort of side characters, really. I was in almost everything I've been in. It's always been like a goofy-ish side character. I've never really been like the main character in any theatre production. I've sort of learned to roll with that, because initially that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be, the leading man, but I wasn't very good at that. I was better suited to being someone who had like a few funny lines and a side plot, rather than someone who could command the attention the whole time. I realised I kind of liked that more anyway. I think comic relief is important in all forms of media. Obviously, stand up is a genre of entertainment where being funny is the sole focus, but learning that I have a specific role to play, and that is to make people laugh, has always sort of, I can do like a tiny bit of like dramatic acting, but I'm better at comedic acting, and that's fine. But I guess Adam in a theatre role is, I only really see theatre as a hobby nowadays, but I guess like a more scripted version of Adam the comedian.
Yeah. Okay. So have you done many productions then?
The best I've ever done was I was in like a teen theatre company, and we went to the West End twice to perform. And the second production we ever did, I was this was like just before COVID. I played like the main character's dad, and that is in like a musical, and that's the furthest I've ever been. I've also done Aladdin. I was the parrot Iago. There is you can fairly easily find on my like Instagram like a picture of me in a parrot costume, and I look like David Bowie. It's brilliant. Yeah, so I'm like, since ironically starting theatre at uni made me realise it was a hobby and not my actual like end goal.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like when I started uni, I was like, I'm an actor, but I want to give stand up a go, and then it sort of changed mid degree. And I think like one of the turning points was like a careers day when, you know, Kyra Gray, who a lot of you will know, was like, she was like an alumni from my uni, and now she's you know, touring and opening for big comedians. I think it was like Mo Gilligan she was opening for. She came in and she was telling us all the progression through stand up, and then like a theatre graduate from the uni came in and was like, I do dubbing work on Peppa Pig sometimes, and I went, yep, I can see where the career route's going.
So it must be quite a thrill to be on the West End.
Oh, it was magical. I still love theatre. And I think having that background has helped me with stand-up because, you know, in my heart I am a performer. I just needed to realise I wasn't the kind of performer I initially thought I was. I'm not stage man. I'm microphone man.
Yeah.
Worst Avengers movie ever.
So when it comes to actually your stand-up then and your writing methods and styles, what happens for you for jokes?
I have a very fun little rule that I have for myself, and that is my 4 joke a day rule, or 4 ideas a day rule. To put it more accurately, we'll call it 4 joke a day as a sort of selling point. So I try and write 1 joke when I wake up, or like, and then 1 about midday, 1 about 6 o'clock in the evening, and then 1 at midnight. And they don't have to be good. They don't have to even be jokes. They can just be ideas, a thought. But it's a way to keep my brain whirring. It's a way of keeping my brain consistently within the funny zone, so that when it comes to, you know, a gig, I'm prepared with something new. If I haven't come up with anything good for a while, I've got like a thought in my head. If I've got like a day or a week where I'm not gigging as much, I can still be in writing mode for a bit. So 4 jokes a day. They don't even have to be jokes. They are just ideas or little thoughts. Most of them won't ever go into a comedy set, but it's a way of keeping the comedy brain whirring.
Yeah. When you get that joke, then what do you then do with it? Is it, okay, now it's time? Is it, I think this joke's good, I now need to develop it, or try it that night, or what? Do you have like a thing, go, right, I'm going to do that and then this, or?
I've been trying to teach myself to be, when I initially started, I'd try and do, you know, new jokes almost every set. Because I sort of believe that, you know, you have to try something new every single time, or you won't be funny again, which is wrong. So if anyone's listening, don't do that. So it depends. So if it's like a fully thought out idea, because again, with the 4 joke idea rule, it's 4 jokes minimum, really. If you have like another straight thought in your head, pop it in your joke book, or notes, or whatever form you use to write it in. If it's a fully formed idea, I will try it at the closest opportunity. So if I've got a new material night the next day, I will try it then. If I've got I've got a week to go and it's not ready, I will shelve it, and then I will work on the idea further, because, you know, joke ideas can evolve. They can turn out completely different to the way you've originally written it in your notes. So my bit about Keir Starmer might turn into a bit about pineapples, because I've noticed something, and then I've decided, nope, I'm not going to write about that. I'm going to do observational material on pineapples, because that is where my brain is going. So letting your brain guide the material. Stream of consciousness exercises are really important, by the way. Just pick a topic, write about it. One of the things we used to do at uni in like our university workshops were we'd sometimes pick material out of a hat, and there'd be a topic, and we'd have to do a minute's riffing on it. And I highly recommend everyone gives that a go at some point, because it forces you to think outside the box. Yeah,
there was an open mic that ran for a little period of time that used to do that as an open mic, as in, the audience would put topics in a hat, and you were on stage for 5 minutes, and then you would go with topic one, and you would just see how far you could go. And if you ran out of ideas, you went, next topic, please. And the next one would come out, and it would just constantly go like that. That was quite a good,
that's brilliant,
good way of getting the brain working live on stage. And everybody who was in the room was knowing that what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So there was no, the audience were a part of the act as much as so they could put anything outrageous in as they wanted to.
Sure. Yeah.
And you would get some crazy stuff coming out, but it's a shame that one doesn't. It was called improvisational, I think it was.
I remember being told about that when I was like starting out. Didn't it? Was it like it started and then just disappeared almost instantly? Didn't it?
Yeah, I think it lasted. I think it might have been a few months or something like that.
That's a shame.
But yeah, it did come to an end. But that was a good fun night.
Yeah,
but I think for me. It was just the wrong time for me.
Right.
I was so early.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I'm just getting to grips with how to be on stage.
Yeah.
And I thought, this sounds easy. And then you get up stage and it's like, you freeze. Like,
yeah.
I've got to talk about chocolates. Like, does anybody like chocolates? I've got nothing. And the idea was that if it became obvious that you were kind of using material, then topic would change. So there was no trying to lead the audience somewhere for you to bring something else in that wasn't off the top of your head.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame that doesn't exist. I hope if you guys are listening, bring it back. Let Marc talk more about chocolate, and let me give it a go.
I reckon it'd be quite good to actually do it as a. What I always found with that night was that everyone got 5 minutes. But if you were on early, you did your bit, and then you sat down and you're watching everyone else, and you're going, "Oh, I could do a bit. Oh, I know that bit." And my thought was, if I ever thought about bringing this night in, like now it's gone, doing my own version, was like everyone gets 5 minutes twice. So you get half the number of acts. And in the first, so rather than having 10 acts, you'd have 5 or 6 or whatever. In the first half, you get 5, and then you flip the order in the second half. So you can then riff off what anybody else has said as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, brilliant. Give everyone loads more time. Yeah, absolutely. You should start it up.
I won't start it up, but if anybody else wants to start it up, hey, go for it. Take it, do it. I think it's such a good idea that I think it becomes almost like a live workshop in a weird kind of way, but everybody's brought in because the audience are part of it as well because they've made the suggestions.
Yeah.
And they cultivate the kind of night that it's going to be. So if it's crap, you can blame the audience.
Yeah. And it's one of those nights where if it's crap, it doesn't matter because everyone's just happy to be there.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So what are your future ambitions then in comedy?
I want to get to a level where I can happily just contact any venue in the UK and be like, hey, I'm free, I want a spot, can I try 10 minutes of untested material? I want to be at a level where they're like, oh my god, it's Adam. Yes, of course, sir. I'd like to try and make a living from it. As a sort of more serious chance, I do freelance stuff at the moment. That's given me loads of time to gig, and I'd like to, have it be part of, the income in the end. I'd like to progress beyond the open mic scene and be on pro bills regularly and stuff like that. But at the moment, seeing where it goes, trying to love the art of it. Because if you don't love the art of it, what's the point? If you don't love actually doing it, you can kill every time, but what's the point? So trying to get further while also trying to stay, not fall out of love with comedy.
Yeah. No, I get that. So if you got any, because I mean we are coming to when this comes out at the end of April.
Yeah,
we are starting to hit fringe season and stuff like that. Have you got any plans for any of that? Any Edinburgh, Brighton, etc.?
So I'm doing 2 spots at Brighton Fringe, not like for my own show. I'm doing 2 for I think it's Matt Mayall's 2 nights, Regional Huns and Prop Roulette. I can't remember the dates. I think it's 13th and 14th actually. So yes, I do remember the dates. I just can't remember which one's which. So if anyone's in Brighton, come on down. I will be there and enjoy other people doing longer spots. What else is going on? I might be doing something at Camden. I cannot tell you in full, but if you follow the mysterious Instagram account, which I've started, called Adam Dorr and Adam Dorr, I will update people on there and explain what I am doing. And that's all I can say at the moment. No plans for Edinburgh. Will that change? Probably not.
No, it's I think it's going to be an expensive year. This one for Edinburgh, isn't it?
So absolutely no plans. If I do go up, it might be for like a weekend or, I'm doing West End New Act of the Year. The prize for that, if I win, is free Edinburgh accommodation. I am not going to win, so.
You never know.
Steve, if you're listening, I'm so funny. If that does happen, then I will take my free week in Edinburgh. But I think that's the only scenario I see myself going up.
Yeah. Have you done? You mentioned the word fringe before. So have you done fringe shows before?
I have only done Faversham, which is in Kent, and that's it's smaller scale than Brighton and Edinburgh. It's run like almost single-handedly by one brilliant woman, Ribs Norman, and she gets, volunteers every year. But so it's 1 month in October. Everyone gets like one spot, and it's very, very grassroots. I wish more people knew about it. I mean, I wish more people went to, live independent comedy in general. But so I've done Faversham twice, and that's it so far. So very little experience with the fringes.
Okay. And I always like to ask this little fun question then. So if you do start making a living from comedy and things do start going well, you end up on TV or Netflix.
Yeah.
You get your nice little spot and the producer sits down with you and asks you, what music would you like to walk on the stage to? What would you pick?
Fuck. Think of the possibilities. One bit of music. Oh God.
One single track.
You know what? Since I've done it a couple of times before, at like other open mics, I've gone with Tribute by Tenacious D a few times. I don't think it fits my set. It's just a funny song. I can't think of any songs that really fit the way my comedy goes or anything like that. So we'll go with that because it's funny. I think it matches the energy, and that's about it. And it's a good song. Yeah.
Dave Grohl was on drums as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite funny. Some people know that, and some people don't. Him being the devil in the video.
I'm not like the biggest fan of. I'm like a very casual fan of them, to be honest. But it's such a fun song to go on to. I've done it twice, and I think that would have to be the one if I were to go on TV. It would get people in the mood for comedy. because my actual favourite song of all time is like Rather Be by Clean Bandit, and that's not funny. That's a nice little sentimental song, and then you don't want to go on that and be like, oh hey, I'm autistic.
As we're kind of wrapping up, if you're a regular listener to this, you will know what's coming up. If you're a new listener, I like to set the comedians that come on to here a challenge to tell a joke from this joke book called The Little Book of Shit Jokes by Sid Finch. And the idea is that the comedians can pick whichever joke they want from this book, tell it live on stage, and see what reaction they get. The trick is the comedians only get to pick it by page number.
Right.
So what they're going to get is an utter mystery. And the idea is they can tell the joke live on stage, film it, post it on Instagram, tag us in it, and we can all laugh and joy in their success at telling a really shit joke. So, Adam, if you want to give me a number between 5 and 95.
5 and 95. Oh, let's go with 86.
86. Has that gone? No. Ha. Yes. Right. The joke I want you to tell on stage, I'll send you this in a message later, is I had to quit my job defusing bombs on the sea floor. I couldn't handle the pressure.
God. Okay.
You could do what some people do, and they tell the joke, and then when it goes flat, they blame me, which has happened a couple of times, which is quite funny on stage. Nice little bit of advertising as well. Some people tell it standalone. Some people try to import it into their set in some way.
Not allowed to jiggle I'm not allowed to jiggle the joke. I have to tell it as it is, right?
No, you can jiggle it slightly if you want, so long as the premise and the kind of thing stays the same.
Okay.
Right.
So no changing the punchline.
I couldn't handle the pressure. If you can think of a different way of getting diffusing bombs on the seafloor, something else. I don't know. I don't write these jokes.
You know what? I'm doing like I'm trying to do like a character bit at the moment, and I think I know how to incorporate it. I don't know if it's I will try it with the new character I'm working on, and then I will film that, and then I will we will see how it goes.
It's always fun, and I always say to people, don't do it at your most important gig.
No.
But for some people, it's gone down quite well.
Okay. Well,
but yeah, so that's your challenge at some point in the near future. Give it a go. See how it comes. Even if you do it as when you do Funny Folk, and it's just however you see fit. There's not. I'm not holding a gun to your head.
Okay. No, I will give it a go. I think I have an idea how to make it be okay.
So that's always the interesting thing, is to watch how a comedian takes something like that, and you can see their brain going around going, maybe I could put it there, maybe I'll put it there, maybe I'll change that, and it'll work here, there, and everywhere. So it's always a bit of fun.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things in comedy is like sincerity anyway. So if you're delivering a joke that you know is shit, the audience can't know that you know it's shit. They have to believe that you think this is the funniest thing in the world. So, and that's where I think a lot of one-liner comedians. I don't want to sound like I'm giving unsolicited advice, but I think if you're a one-liner comedian, don't sound smug, just sound convinced, sound like you're selling me your dumb joke. That's all there is to it. Sell it, believe in it. Doesn't matter if it's shit. If you genuinely love your own joke, that is important. People love authenticity.
True, very true. So where can people find you then online?
So I've got I'm at Poundland Value Santa on Instagram. I am at Adam Dorr Comedy on TikTok, and I have a YouTube channel called Knocking at Your Door, which is spelled DORR, like my surname, and those are the only 3 social media profiles I currently use. I am very bad at the YouTube and TikTok game at the moment, but I'm trying to be better. So yeah, you can find me on those, and that is it, I think.
What was the thinking behind Poundland Santa?
It was just like an off-the-quip remark I used to describe myself a couple of years ago, and then I went, "Oh, I like that. That's my username now," and I have not changed it since then. So that's it. I thought it was funny. Other people agreed. It stayed there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's hilarious. I was just intrigued if there was like this story that went with it that you were.
Do it.
I mean, you could do a character of being a Poundland Santa.
I could do
on stage at Christmas.
Poundland Santa, just the worst discount gifts. Brilliant. But yeah, there's no story to it. I just thought it was funny, and I got confused messages when I changed my name and saying, "Who the fuck is this?" And that works. That's staying.
Fair enough. You can find us on Instagram at Open Mic Comedy Pod. We have a website, openmiccomedypod.com. Whichever platform you're listening to us on, please give it a like, follow, subscribe, and all that jazz. It really does help us get up the charts and gets these wonderful people heard. Mm-hmm. If any comedians out there want to come on, drop me a message on Instagram and we'll look at getting you on as soon as we can. But lastly, I just want to say thank you very much for your time today, Adam.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been great to learn about somebody I've seen a few times on circuit, but we've never really had a long time to sit down and talk about things. So.
We've only done I think 3 gigs together now, I think.
This is what I'm going to say, that it's at least 12. You're going to feel really guilty. No, it hasn't. It's been about 3 or 4.
3 or 4, yeah.
But no, it's been a lot of fun. And for everybody else, I will speak to you all next time.
Bye-bye.